Okay, class, this video is going to be part 3 of your still life. Now, what I did with this is I basically put myself on a timer for 30 minutes, and at the conclusion of that 30 minutes, I stopped. And I think that's a pretty good pace for you guys. You do need to take your time and shade carefully. You need to make sure that your contour lines are very light when you begin this shading. Where I started the shade here is up in the upper left-hand corner with the grapes. And the reason why I did this is that I'm going to try to avoid getting any smudges. And if I work from the bottom up, there's a chance I'm going to smudge more. One of the things that I did initially, you can see the highlight. That's what we call a highlight right there. And that highlight, if you pencil that in before you begin shading, like I'm doing right now, then when you shade, just don't add any value in there. And what you do is you'll get a reflective quality coming back from that grape because that grape is shiny. And if you refer to your image, by the way, I would use the image that's on the website because it's color and it's in a lot more detail. But anyway, make sure you refer to that, and you'll see that the grapes are shiny. They have that reflective quality. So make sure you put your highlight in there because it is one of the components on the rubric of which you'll be scored. Okay? Notice the shading is very careful, very deliberate. I want to make sure I get my dark values in where the grape is dark, and I'd use very, very, very little pressure on areas where it's light. Okay, and again, I'm just working kind of light here. I'm referring, although you can't see it, I am referring to the image of the grapes and the picture as I'm shading. Very careful strokes. I want to look at what I'm shading, and where it's dark, I'm going to use a little bit more pressure. Also notice the length of the strokes that I'm shading with too. They're very short strokes. And I do this especially now because I'm working with something that's pretty small. Getting in some of the darker areas. And I am going to bump it up just a little bit faster here in a few minutes. But I just wanted you to see how long it takes. It does take some time to do, and I'm giving you that time. You have time to work on this. You work on it for 30 minutes a day, just like you would have for class. You don't want to overdo it because if you do a little too much, you can sometimes get careless. So again, very short strokes. And right now I'm kind of using a very light pressure for my shading of the grapes. Very light pressure. And then when I get down near the bottom, I shade a little bit darker using more pressure. And it's always better to do it a little bit lighter than darker because once you do that, you can always come back in towards the end of the drawing. It's easier to add value than it is to take away, in my opinion. I'll tell you about as far as I got today. You saw it in the initial image. I got most of the grapes on the top and the handle and a little bit of the background done. Okay, we're about ready here to move it up just a little bit. I am going to be going faster here, but understand that this process that you're about to see took around 30 minutes to do. Darker values, lighter near the top, and don't forget your highlights. Again, the first thing I did was pencil in that highlight, and then I began shading, and this grape is actually darker than all the other ones around it. In the background, it was dark in there as well, and there's a stem there too. If you look really, really close, you want to include that as well. I'm going to slow it down here just for a little bit so you can see where and what I'm doing with this grape in the forefront. Notice the lighter area right near the picture, and then it's real dark near the bottom. And again, please refer to the image on the website to do this drawing. The photocopy, the values are just way too dark in the photocopy. Right now I'm putting in some area in around the stem where the stem actually attaches to the grape. And if you take a very careful look at that section, it gets pretty dark in there, and then it gets light rather quickly. And you want to make sure you look carefully. Also, I want you to notice another thing too that I've done is I put a piece of paper under my hand, a regular piece of paper. That will really avoid a lot of smudging, because if you smudge a lot, it will take points off of the craftsmanship component in your rubric. So make sure that you have a piece of paper under your hand. Back to speeding it up a little bit, doing some more shading. And again, this grape is kind of dark, and notice how what it does when you do this and do it effectively, especially with the highlight, it really makes it stand out. Now I want to go in, and where that stem is, I want to make sure that I include some good details in there and include some darker values in the back. For the handle is a lot lighter value. You're probably not going to get over a 5 or a 6 on your value scale. And then you want to put in the background, and the background will really make the handle look more realistic. I also want you guys to notice, can you see any contour lines? What happens is after you do the contour lines and shade, they should all disappear. But that's the end of part 3. Have fun with it.